Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, a husband recounts his wife's struggle with depression and miscarriages, leading to her desire for a hysterectomy. He suggests adoption as an alternative and plans for their future. However, his wife meets a wealthy colleague, AP, and starts staying out late. Suspicious, he hires a private investigator who provides evidence of his wife's affair with AP. Feeling betrayed, he exposes their affair online and to the media. His wife's life unravels, with her family cutting ties. AP's marriage also ends in divorce, and the husband considers legal action against him. He concludes by emphasizing the importance of fidelity and communication in relationships. Now let's get into the story. My wife, 27, started struggling with depression 4 years into our marriage. We were so young, practically newlyweds, and trying to conceive. Problem was, she kept having miscarriages. All she wanted was to be a mom, so it was extremely disappointing to her. After too many failed attempts, she gave up. She got approval from her insurance for a hysterectomy. I told her we can always work towards the goal of adoption. Our wealth wasn't quite built, but that happens after years of hard work. I told her we get a bigger place and save up money for our future child. She seemed okay with this idea, but it didn't solve the problem. There wasn't an immediate fix for this kind of thing. Only patience and willingness to go with the flow would get us by. Well, my wife was working in the offices of a big-name bank, and after years of service, she met AP, a super wealthy man who was in charge of half the company or something. He was married, too, for 20 years, but that doesn't matter when you're rich. So when he met my wife, I imagine he was struck by her young beauty and she was struck by his enormous wealth. My wife started to go missing. Literally. She'd stay out all night telling me she was out celebrating with coworkers, making friends, or #living. I asked if I could join her, but she said it was for employees only. I didn't get it, but now I know it didn't sit right with me because she was lying. Old me didn't want to believe my wife would lie, even though sometimes she'd go 48 hours without returning home. She told me she made a close woman friend that let her shower at her house and party all night. It sounded like a great time, and I was glad my wife wasn't depressed anymore. I was glad when she was home sleeping next to me. But when it became less and less frequent, I knew I had to do something sneaky. I hired a PI to watch and follow my wife. I couldn't, since we only had one car and I couldn't stop working with my uncle at his construction project. Before I knew it, a week went by, and the PI. With his findings. My wife left work with her super rich AP. They got in his Porsche and drove to a glamorous hotel where the PI was able to snap a picture of them entering a hotel room with AP's hand on the small of my wife's back. There are pictures of them leaving the hotel and traveling to work together the next morning. Another night, they leave work for a club and dance together, if you can call that dancing. They went to 3 different high-end hotels and party spots that week, probably spending about half the money it would take to adopt a child. I hated her instantly. I hated my wife. She didn't even look the same in the pictures. I wondered if he was giving her money on top of the sickening luxury. I wondered if she knew how much money he spent and if that made her believe she could adopt a child with him. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. So that's when I decided she must have been thoughtless. My wife wasn't thinking she was having expensive fun with AP, but as she thought this was okay or leading her any closer to adopting a child, she was out of her mind. She wasn't the person I married anymore. I cried for a while. For the first time in years, everything I thought we would accomplish together through time and hard work was gone. She didn't want me to be her life partner, contrary to the vows she took letting my anger fuel me. I posted the pictures online. I even gave the pictures to a news channel that used it for one of their scandalous pieces. It seemed like everyone in the state freaked out about this. But no one freaked out so much as my wife and AP. They both deserved the panic and shock they felt. My wife's family stopped responding to her or communicating at all, so she started texting me and leaving voicemails daily. She was always upset. Sometimes it was anger towards me, and other times it was overwhelming guilt for her behavior. She admitted she was disgusting and pathetic for cheating on me and letting AP spend so much time. Sometimes she thought he might fund the cost of her adopting a child if he grew to love her deeply. Other times, she just chalked up her actions to be something she deserved to forget about the helplessness she felt. AP hadn't spoken to her since his wife filed for divorce. He had children with her, so he tried to save his marriage. It didn't work. He was forced to hand over half his fortune and future fortune to his children. I felt like he should give me a certain amount of money, too, so I filed to sue him in court. I can't talk about that, but regardless, from the moment I saw the pictures of my wife with him, my heart started cutting ties. I didn't want her explanation, and I didn't even want to see her again. But when I had to, it only made me more certain I did the right thing. I hope everyone reading this knows there's no excuse for cheating on your spouse or significant other. A divorce would have been a welcome alternative since my wife didn't have the patience to work with me towards our goals. Today's second story. In this story, 19 years of marriage faces a crisis when the wife, after becoming restless following their kid's departure for college, cheats on her husband with a coworker. Their daughter discovers the infidelity, causing tension in the family. Tragedy strikes when the wife is disabled in a car accident and later diagnosed with a potential cancerous growth. The husband struggles with his emotions, torn between caring for his wife and the pain of betrayal. They are both seeking therapy to navigate their complex feelings and relationships. The husband also contemplates confronting the man involved in the affair for closure. Now let's get into the story. Not sure if this is the right place to post this, since my situation is very different from others, but I am desperate. My wife and I have been together for 25 years, but married for 19. We are high school sweethearts and have 2 amazing kids, a daughter and a son. I was honestly under the impression that we had a solid marriage, that our relationship wouldn't be like our friends and colleagues, and we'd actually stand the test of time. Now I see how spectacularly naive and wrong I was. My wife has been a stay-at-home mom for most of our adult lives, something we both agreed on. But after our kids went to college, she began feeling restless. Empty nest syndrome, I guess. She would tell me she was feeling unfulfilled and felt like she had lost sense of who she was. I tried recommending hobbies we could do together, places we could visit, or even adopting puppies, if that would help. And at first she was all for it, but soon began saying she wanted to feel like she was contributing and not simply coasting through life. I understood and was willing to support her. She never liked sitting still, so I kind of expected it. She complained to a few friends, and one of them actually managed to get her an interview at a real estate firm. She used to work in one before having the kids, and I was just as excited as she was when she accepted. In the beginning, things were going great, but after the first year, I noticed some changes. She started going to drink-ups with coworkers, began texting a lot more than usual when at home and at odd hours at night. She even started wearing a particular type of perfume and would wear more suggestive clothing, nothing too revealing or slutty, but clothing that complemented her body figure a lot more than usual. But what made me suspicious was when I accidentally saw a message from a male coworker on her phone. I wasn't snooping, which seemed to be highly inappropriate and flirtatious. I asked about it and I could tell she was slightly shaken, but assured me he was simply a friend and she would talk to him about his inappropriate messages. Me, not wanting to be the paranoid, jealous, and controlling husband, chose to believe her and let it go. Oh, how I wish I didn't. Her behavior got more strange as time went on. She started mentioning how she wanted to be more spontaneous with life and even picked up smoking weed. I made jokes about how she seemed to be living the same college lifestyle as our kids and suggested she slow down. But she dropped an absolute boom when she mentioned in a drunken state after another night of going out, that maybe I dim her lights and hold her back. I was completely blindsided by this and really believed I was messing up somehow. So I tried to do everything to improve the marriage, even booked counseling, but it went nowhere. Then, out of the blue, that strange behavior stopped. My wife apologized for the way she had acted. She said it was like she forgot who she was, but realized what she had at home and knew she didn't want to lose it. She resigned from her job and we began marriage counseling. It was tough initially, but things improved immensely, and for 2 years our marriage was better than ever. She was more attentive. She initiated intimacy more and would shower me with affection. The only problem is that her relationship with our daughter seemed to be in a nosedive. I would question my wife about it, but she would tell me it was a growing phase or a woman thing, and once again I would take her word for it. Funny thing is, during this period my relationship with my daughter improved. She would call a lot more, meet me for coffee or lunch often during the week, and even bought me gifts, t-shirts, and stuff? I always told her it wasn't necessary, but she insisted and I could always tell she wanted to say something but would hold her tongue. Tragedy struck one evening as my wife was returning from doing groceries and she was hit by a drunk driver. She unfortunately lost the use of her legs and has been wheelchair-bound ever since. Things got really bad and she would make suggestions about me sleeping with other women, to which I obviously refused. I just choked it up to her depression and reminded her that I was here to stay because I loved her more than our situation. This actually made her cry and asked me why I was so good to her, or what did she do to deserve me. Again, I choked it up to depression and just tried to help her as best I can. Sometime later we went for our medical checkups. The doctor sat us down to inform us that they had found a mass in my wife's throat. It was of an unusual size, and because it may be cancerous, they have to do a biopsy. My first reaction was shock, whereas my wife was just blank at first, and then she started laughing. It started small, then became hysterical as she began mumbling that this was her punishment. We managed to calm her down, but she requested that before the biopsy we could do a family dinner. I of course agreed, and we had our kids and immediate family over. I made a speech about how my wife was the light of my life and how we'd get through this. But at the end of my speech, I noticed my daughter was rather uncomfortable. I thought that maybe it was because of what was going on that made her feel that way. The next evening, my daughter phoned me drunk, begging me not to hate her. At first, I was confused but reassured her that I would never hate her because she is my little girl and I will always love her. At those words, she goes on to tell me how she caught her mother cheating on me with a man she had never seen before. It was during her time at the real estate firm. My daughter had gone on a road trip with some friends and decided to pass by a dinner place they don't normally frequent to get a bite. And that's where she saw her mother lip locked with a man that looked nothing like me. Apparently, this was why their relationship deteriorated and ours improved. I confronted my wife, and to her credit, she didn't deny it. Through tears she confirmed it was the coworker from the messages and says it was the dumbest thing she has ever done. She said he was always coming on to her and eventually wore down her walls. She tells me getting caught by our daughter made her realize the gravity of what she was doing. She wanted to take it to the grave because she never wanted to hurt me and was too much of a coward to confess. So she begged our child not to tell me. I am absolutely shattered at the revelation and don't know what to do. I now question every aspect of our relationship and wonder where I went wrong. She tells me I was a good husband and that none of this is on me. The problem is, since that time I haven't been loving towards her. I still take care of her, but it's more like a nurse does with a patient rather than a husband to his wife. If I leave her, she will be completely stranded. She is dependent of me both financially and emotionally, and it seems immensely unfair. Sorry if it seems all over the place, but I am a mess right now. Update. Had no idea so many people were willing to help both on the post and in the inbox. It really helps to know we are not alone. I did something I am not proud of. My wife has always been on my case to experience my true feelings and thoughts about her, no matter how ugly or cruel they may be. Not long after my first post in the afternoon, as I prepared lunch for her like I always do. And just when I was about to leave her to her meal, she suddenly grabbed my hand and once again begged me to say something to her. Anything, because it was killing her the way I've been treating her since our discovery day. At those words I just exploded. A lot came out of me. I told her that to me she was perfection. But since this happened, she has become used in my eyes. I told her that the very sound of her voice used to make me want to give her the world, but now simply being around her makes me want to run and never look back. I told her that now she is like a dead weight around my neck that will never leave because it needs me to survive. I explained that through all this she is still somehow the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning and the last thing I think about when I go to sleep. But those thoughts are accompanied by a pain I never knew existed, and it makes me absolutely miserable because somehow I still need her. I still want to hold in my arms, but each time I touch her I have mental movies of her with another man. But what eats at me the most is the fact that she dragged our daughter into this. She put our baby girl in an impossible position and expected life to go on like nothing happened. I pointed out that even despite her current circumstances, her relationship with our daughter has hardly changed, and that is the fruit of her actions. My wife just sobbed softly through it all, and at the end, she simply said she deserved all that was coming her way. She said she tried her hardest to atone the disgusting decision she made during that time and has never stopped seeking forgiveness from our daughter. She explains that seeing me in this state makes her feel like a murderer, and she will do absolutely anything to help me heal and recover from this. She also added that she wanted me to know that even if I never forgive her and end up divorcing her, she has and always will love only me. That she doesn't regret our life and marriage because it is more than she could have ever asked for. Apparently, she can hardly look herself in the mirror because of who was looking back at her, and she never wanted to be that person. I can see she clearly hates herself for what she did, but I am torn about all this. I never knew it was possible to absolutely love someone and hate them at the same time. I have decided to book therapy for me and my wife because I have a lot I want to say to her, but am afraid I'll go too far, so speaking in a controlled environment will be best. I also have this overwhelming urge to speak with the man she was involved with. It may be useless after many years, but I feel like I need to for my own sanity's sake. I want to know who was the man that had the audacity to actually come between a husband and his wife? I believe I will ask for his information during the therapy session.